Normally when they teach this technique in algebra classes, is what they'll do is they'll say, well, find the common denominator and then multiply through by that common denominator to clear the denominators. But oftentimes students get a little bit confused by that, and so what I'm going to show you here is, let's just see if we can get all the denominators to be the same, okay? So here you can see this has an x, this has a 5, and this has a 10. Okay, we want all these denominators to be the same. So if we could make all these denominators 10x, see, because this one has an x, it's missing a 10, right? So if I multiply that by 10, I have to make sure I do it to the top and the bottom. So you can see I have 10 times 3 over 10x now. Over here, I really need a 2 and an x to make this 10x. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by 2x. And then here I'm just missing an x, so I'm going to multiply the top and bottom by x. Okay, so now you can see that all the denominators are 10x. So now what I would do is I would say, all right, I'm going to multiply everything by this denominator, 10x. So when you do that, when you distribute it, okay, what happens is when you multiply the 10x and the 10x, those are going to cancel. So what it does is it clears the denominators. You don't want to actually multiply the numerators by 10x. You just want to realize that since these all have the same denominator, if you were to multiply through by that common denominator, you're just going to be left with the numerators. So are you with me so far? So we're just going to have those numerators once all the denominators are the same. You can ignore those because they're going to cancel out if you multiply by that common denominator, 10x. So what we have here now is 30 plus 4x equals x squared. I'm just going to get everything on one side by subtracting 4x and subtracting 30, set that equal to 0. Now what you can do is you can try to factor it, or you could do the quadratic formula, or you could complete the square, any of those techniques so that you can find out what x is. But the main thing is you want to make sure that the denominator is not 0. So if, in this case, if x came out to 0 when we solve this, then that means that it's no solution. That's a false answer or an extraneous solution. So this would involve, I would probably do the quadratic formula. Now let's go over to example number 2. Now this one, what I recommend doing first is factoring the denominator, okay, all the denominators, so you can see what they're all composed of or what they're made up of, right? So you can see this one has an x plus 3, but it's missing an x plus 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply by what it's missing so that it'll have the same denominator, okay? This one has an x plus 1, but it doesn't have an x plus 3. See, our goal is to get all the denominators to be the same. Okay, so whatever it's missing, multiply the top and bottom by that quantity. Now you can see, okay, they all have the same denominator. So what you can do is you can ignore those denominators. Okay, when I say ignore, I don't mean ignore. I just mean that if you were to multiply through by the common denominator, which is x plus 3, x plus 1, right? X plus 3 and x plus 1. And if you were to distribute this to each of these fractions, because this is in the numerator and this is in the denominator, it's going to cancel those out. So effectively what we can do is focus just on the numerators at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to distribute the 4, okay? Over here I'm going to distribute the x, and we're just focusing on those numerators. So now it's a little bit easier to solve because we don't have all those fractions. Let's get everything on one side and set it equal to 0. Okay, so I'm just going to add 2, okay, to make this equal to 0. So we have x squared plus 7x, because 4x and 3x, right? Plus 6. So if we factor this, we get x plus 6 and x plus 1. And if we set those equal to 0, we get negative 6 and negative 1. Now again, you want to quickly check, x cannot be negative 1 because negative 1 plus 1 is 0. We can't divide by 0, that's undefined. So we're going to cross that out, that's extraneous. Whereas over here, negative 6 is okay. We just want to make sure x doesn't come out to negative 3 or negative 1 because, again, we'd be dividing by 0, that's undefined. So I hope this helped you understand how to work with solving rational equations better. Subscribe to the channel. Check out more math tutoring videos on my YouTube channel, Mario's Math Tutoring. And I look forward to helping you in the future videos. I'll talk to you soon.